Have you ever walked into a place where you felt immediately unwelcome? In the heart of Beverly Hills Rodeo Drive, inside the city's most prestigious jewelry store, a quiet woman was about to expose the horrifying truth about discrimination when her tormentors realized too late that they had just humiliated their own boss. Before we go further with this story, I want to ask you something. If you love interesting stories like this that expose the truth, please give this video a thumbs up and tell us in the comments section where in the world you are watching this video, and also do well to smash that subscribe button. The morning sun painted golden streaks across Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. Designer boutiques lined the famous street like glittering jewels. Among them stood Diamond Dreams, the most exclusive jewelry store in the city. Behind its gleaming glass doors lay treasures worth millions. Leora Washington stood outside, her hand resting on the bronze handle. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. The soft chime barely whispered as she entered her own empire. She walked with quiet purpose. Her navy blazer was clean but simple. Her black pants ended just above worn leather flats. Silver streaks touched her dark hair, pulled back in a neat bun. A thin gold bracelet, more meaningful than expensive, circled her wrist. Her leather bag showed years of use, and a rental car tag dangled from the strap. Leora didn't need to admire the store's beauty. She had chosen every marble tile, every crystal chandelier, every velvet display case. This was her vision brought to life over 23 years of blood, sweat, and dreams. But today, she wasn't here as the owner. She was here as a customer, testing whether her own employees would treat everyone with respect, no matter how they looked. Her eyes found the Aurora collection in the center display. Rare diamonds worth hundreds of thousands sparkled under perfect lighting. The centerpiece, a crescent necklace with a flawless teardrop diamond, was her favorite. She had held that stone the day it arrived from South Africa. "Good morning. Welcome to Diamond Dreams." The voice was smooth but cold. Leora turned to face Madison Stone, the new store manager. Madison stood perfectly dressed in a white silk blouse and cream skirt. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail. A thin gold chain rested against her collarbone. Her pale blue eyes held a smile that never reached her heart. "I'd like to see the Aurora necklace," Leora said simply. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Madison's smile froze as she took in Leora's modest clothes, worn shoes and simple bag. The pause wasn't long, but it was enough. "The Aurora pieces," Madison said carefully, "start at $150,000. "I'm aware," Leora replied. Madison's eyes scanned Leora again, her outfit, her posture, even how she spoke. The message in her narrowed gaze was clear. "You don't belong here. Most clients who ask about the Aurora line book appointments in advance," Madison said, her smile now strained. "It allows us to prepare in a private setting." "I prefer to browse in person," Leora answered evenly. Madison hesitated. Leora could practically hear the calculations in her head. About appearances, about time, about risk. Then Madison changed course. "We have several new arrivals that might be more accessible," she said, gesturing toward a case near the front. "Very tasteful pieces. Our signature line has more flexible pricing." Leora didn't move. "I came to see the Aurora necklace. May I ask if it's for a special occasion?" Madison's voice dropped lower, trying to sound discreet. "Why do you ask?" Madison let out a nervous laugh. "The Aurora line is very expensive. Most clients come for anniversaries, engagements, major milestones. And if I'm here simply because I like fine jewelry?" Leora asked. Her voice hadn't risen, but weight filled every word. Of course," Madison replied quickly. "It's just, we want to guide guests to what fits best." Leora said nothing. The silence stretched until it became uncomfortable. New customers entered. Two wealthy-looking women in quilted coats, laughing together. A young salesperson immediately greeted them with warm smiles and offered champagne. Madison noticed them, her posture straightening. "Excuse me one moment," she said, walking away without waiting for an answer. Leora watched her go, eyes cool and steady. She turned back to the Aurora display, taking in every detail. Everything was exactly as she remembered from the design phase, except for the person standing in front of it. From across the room, she heard Madison's voice completely change, animated, warm, welcoming. "Ladies, you've come at the perfect time. We just got 2 new pieces perfect for a spring gala." Madison offered them champagne, guided them to plush chairs, showed them jewelry from Paris. The shift was seamless, like muscle memory. Leora remained invisible by the Aurora case. A young associate with short dark hair, her name tag read Keisha, glanced her way. Keisha looked uncertain, her gaze flickering between Leora and Madison. Keisha approached slowly. "Hi there, can I help you today?" But before Leora could answer, Madison's voice cut through the air. "Keisha, could you check inventory in the back? We're missing invoices for the Royal Gala pieces." Keisha stopped mid-step. "Oh, I just thought." "Now please," Madison said sharply. Keisha looked toward Leora apologetically, then walked to the back hallway. Leora waited. Madison continued chatting with her preferred customers, laughing at their stories, complimenting their handbags, describing jewelry like museum pieces. The Aurora case remained unattended. Minutes passed. 5, then 10. Leora stood still, her breathing slow and deliberate. She had been ignored before, in lobbies while others were welcomed, questioned while others were trusted. But never in her own house, never in the place she built with her own hands and vision. Finally, Leora walked toward the seating area. Her footsteps were silent on the marble, but when she cleared her throat politely, Madison's face stiffened. "I'm still waiting to see the Aurora necklace," Leora said, her tone calm but unmistakably firm. Madison looked up, blinking as if surprised Leora was still there. "Yes, of course. As I said, those pieces require appointments and financial commitment. It's not really a browsing section." Leora folded her arms. "Yet I've been standing there for 20 minutes. No one else needed appointments to see jewelry today." Madison's eyes darted to the women beside her. "That's different. They're long-standing clients. Mrs. Peterson and Mrs. Crawford have made substantial purchases before." "I see," Leora said slowly. "So your service depends on purchase history. It's not personal. It's policy for high-value items. We verify serious intent, proof of funds, bank letters, credit limits. Something to confirm we're not wasting resources." "What makes you think I'm here to waste your time?" Leora asked. Madison hesitated. "Look, perhaps you'd be more comfortable with our signature line. Lovely pieces under $5,000, available without formality." Leora's eyes hardened. "I didn't ask for alternatives. I asked to see the Aurora necklace." Madison laughed, short, involuntary. "Ma'am, those items are extremely expensive. People don't just walk in and buy a $150,000 necklace." Leora's response came without emotion. "I'd like to purchase it." Madison blinked. "Excuse me? I said I'd like to purchase the necklace." Madison stared too long, then gave a disbelieving chuckle. "Before any transaction that size, I need proof of funds, credit documentation, account verification, something showing you can complete the purchase. Is that standard for every customer?" Leora asked. Madison didn't answer immediately. "I've been watching you serve champagne and show jewelry without asking anyone about their finances," Leora continued. "So I'll ask again. Is it policy or something else?" Madison squared her shoulders. "For high-value purchases, yes, it's standard. Then I'd like to speak to the store manager." "You are speaking to the manager," Madison said stiffly. Then someone above you. There's no one above me at this location. This is my store. A small silence followed. Leora's eyes narrowed. Your store? Madison's expression hardened. Yes, I'm responsible here. I decide who gets served and how. Leora studied her for a long moment. Her voice dropped but carried more weight than a shout. And you've decided I don't deserve service? Madison crossed her arms. I've decided you're causing disruption. Frankly, you don't look like someone shopping for that kind of jewelry. You've been loitering, refusing direction, making my staff uncomfortable. Leora's heartbeat quickened, but she remained still. The anger came as stillness, as clarity, as refusal to accept another slight. I'm not going anywhere, she said simply. Madison's mouth fell open. Excuse me? You heard me. Madison's voice rose. Then I'm calling security. Heads turned across the store. You're making a scene. I don't care who you think you are. Leave my store now, or I'll have you removed. Leora slowly opened her bag and pulled out her phone. Not rushed, not threatening, but with quiet purpose. Go ahead, she said, voice deadly steady. Call them. But before you do, I'm making a call of my own. Everything in the room seemed to stop. The customers, staff, even the quiet music faded as Madison's eyes fixed on the woman in front of her. Still unknown, still unrecognized, but no longer someone to dismiss. Leora began dialing. The call connected after one ring. Yes, this is Leora Washington. I need an emergency board conference right now. Rodeo Drive location. Put everyone on. Madison blinked, her mouth opening but no words coming. The name hadn't registered yet, but across the store, it had begun to ripple. Keisha, who had returned near the service counter, was frantically scrolling through her phone. Her eyes widened with every swipe. She gasped audibly. She turned to Tyler, the assistant manager, and shoved her screen toward him. He stared, and color drained from his face. Oh my God, Keisha whispered. Madison noticed the shift. She saw younger employees frozen in place. Keisha clutching her phone like fire, Tyler suddenly pale and stiff. Wait, what did you say your name was? Madison asked. Leora lowered her phone. Leora Washington, founder, CEO, and owner of Diamond Dreams Fine Jewelry. Madison blinked as if trying to clear her vision. She looked at the phone in her hand like it had betrayed her. No, you can't be, she said, voice suddenly unsteady. Can't be what? Leora asked. Can't be wealthy? Can't be in charge? Can't own the store you just tried to throw me out of? Madison's posture sagged. Her hands began trembling. She looked around the store with different awareness. Not as a manager, but as someone who had deeply misjudged a situation with consequences she couldn't calculate. Leora stepped closer with unmistakable authority. You didn't ask who I was. You took one look at my skin, my shoes, my car keys, and decided I didn't belong. You tried to humiliate me in my own store. I didn't know, Madison murmured, voice cracking. I swear I didn't know. You didn't care to know, Leora replied. By now, customers had phones out recording. The two older women who'd been laughing with Madison stood aside, expressions uncomfortable. Marcus, the security guard, stepped forward but kept respectful distance, uncertain whether to intervene. Madison took a step back, voice desperate. Please, I wasn't trying to insult you. This store has a reputation. I have to protect the integrity. The integrity of what? Leora interrupted. Your assumptions? Because if what happened today is how you define integrity, we have a bigger problem. Tyler finally stepped forward. Miss Washington, he began. Leora turned, and he straightened immediately. You tried to stop this, she said. I saw you. You knew something was wrong. He nodded quietly. Leora looked to Keisha. You were the only one who approached me like a human being. I noticed. Keisha's eyes welled with tears. Then Leora turned back to Madison, whose carefully constructed control had completely unraveled. I have children, Madison said softly. I'm just trying to do my job. Leora's voice remained even, but steel returned to its edges. And I spent 23 years building this company so no customer would feel the way I did in my 20s. No one should walk into a store and feel small because of how they look. Especially not in a store that carries my name. Madison clutched the countertop. Please, I'll take training again. I'll do whatever's required. Just please don't fire me. Leora studied her for a long moment. There was no triumph in her expression, no malice. Only quiet resolve and deep, exhausted disappointment. You had your chance to do better, she said. You chose not to take it. Long silence followed. Madison's breath hitched. Tyler, Leora said, still facing Madison. Effective immediately. You're manager of this location. Call HR. They've been alerted. Walk them through the incident. Tyler swallowed and nodded. Keisha, your assistant manager. We'll discuss your new responsibilities tomorrow. Keisha wiped her eyes, nodding silently. Marcus, Leora continued, turning to the security guard. You showed judgment when authority gave you questionable orders. You'll receive commendation and a pay raise, effective today. Marcus gave a respectful nod. Finally, Leora faced Madison once more. You can collect your things now. You no longer work here. The silence was complete. No music, no murmurs, just the soft click of a ring box closing somewhere in the background. Madison didn't argue. She didn't cry, not yet. She turned slowly and walked toward the back of the store. For the first time that day, Leora let herself exhale. The hush that followed hung in the air like mist after a storm, thick, motionless, but no longer dangerous. Leora stood where she had been throughout, hands folded calmly. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt the return of balance. She let her eyes wander the space she built from scratch. The music resumed, quiet strings filling silence. Tyler was on the phone with HR. Keisha stood behind the counter, trying to control her breathing. Marcus resumed his post, nodding once when he caught Leora's eye. Leora walked back to the Aurora case. The lighting still shimmered across the necklace's surface, catching each facet. But what caught her eye wasn't the diamonds, it was the angle. The case was still slightly off. She bent down slowly and nudged the case into perfect alignment. It was a small act that made no sound, but the entire store seemed to breathe again. Straightening up, she looked around at staff and remaining customers. Some still watched her. Others had quietly put phones away. I apologize for the disruption, Leora said, her voice warm but firm, carrying without effort. What happened here today is not who we are. This company was built to serve every person who walks through that door with dignity, care, and respect. That will never change. One woman, silver-haired, who had remained silently near the back, stepped forward. Ma'am, she said quietly, you handled that with more grace than most would. You didn't raise your voice, didn't lose control. You just stood your ground. Leora smiled. A real one this time, soft and knowing. I've spent a long time learning that strength doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be firm. She turned back to the display once more, took one last look at the necklace, then nodded, satisfied. The store was no longer crooked. The standard had been restored. And Leora Washington, the woman who had been told she didn't belong, had reminded everyone that she had never left. In a world where people are often judged by their appearance, this story reminds us that dignity, respect, and fairness should be given to everyone, regardless of how they look or dress. True strength lies not in the power to exclude, but in the wisdom to include. And sometimes, the most powerful lesson comes not from those who shout the loudest, but from those who stand the firmest in quiet dignity.